Now, to go back to one thing that happened, we had a little break in between this podcast and our last. Matt, I'll just bring up one other thing. In that time, we did see the bulk of the Ippei Mizuhara and Shohei Ohtani case come to light with the agreement, I should say the charges that were levied against Ippei Mizuhara and potentially the agreement that could be coming for him. It wasn't $4.5 million. It was $16 million. There was well more than $100 million in terms of handle that went in and out. He apparently won about $140 million, lost about $180 million. So this was a significant situation. One of the texts shows that Ippei Mizuhara at one point stopped communicating with the bookmaker alleged to be Matthew Bowyer, and that bookmaker wrote back and said, "Hey, I see Shohei Ohtani walking down the street with his dog, so if you're not going to talk to me, should I just go up and chat with Shohei about this?" So, I mean, it takes the sort of turns that you expect to see in one of these illegal market cases. But based upon everything that has come out, it appears to clear Shohei Ohtani pretty broadly for any allegation that he was involved in illegal sports betting. Whether Ippei Mizuhara is taking the fall entirely or whether Ippei Mizuhara is entirely responsible in the first place, it does appear that Major League Baseball and Shohei Ohtani are going to try to move on from this one about as quickly as they can.
Yeah, circling back here, just a little bit of anecdotal stuff. The reason I was out last week, obviously I was over in Georgia, went from Georgia to South Carolina, Adam, and just talking to people there, the appetite for sports betting is great. Every single person I talked to, there were conversations that were happening around me that were happening not because I brought them up, just because they were happening around me, and then I just kind of started having a little bit of a back and forth with some of these guys and stuff like that. And it was everyone from people, 15 years younger than me to people 15 years older than me. And as I made my way over to South Carolina, much of the same as I was over there too. So it's interesting that the lawmakers are not finding a way to get it done, because it does seem like the people at least certainly want this done. And they brought up, and this is just, again, not us continuing to kick a dead horse and stuff like that, but they brought up the fact that, the only thing I can do is play, and then, they name Prize Picks or whatever, the only thing I can do is play Prize Picks. And so they mentioned that to me and all that. And they would rather obviously traditionally bet sports and whatever, and be able to bet spreads and totals and things and whatnot, but they're kind of taking what they can get. And that's what they talked about, to me. It's like, I'm taking what I can get. And so I think all of those claims that you and I were kind of talking about, where you kind of understand why DraftKings and FanDuel are pissed off. I kind of understand why DraftKings and FanDuel are pissed off, because these people are in these markets, and people really are just doing well, it's all I got, so I'm going to do it. It's like they're literally just kind of like, it is what it is, so that's what I'm going to use.
Yeah, no matter what we've said about the fantasy sports pick'em situation versus legal sports betting, there's not anyone on this podcast or anyone who's going to come on this podcast who's going to hold it against someone who's living in one of those states for using whatever option happens to be in front of them that is not expressly made illegal. Now, we talk about the offshore sports betting market. That is expressly illegal. We've covered that before. These fantasy sports products operate in a gray area. They are in some places regulated. They are in some places not. But, if you're going to talk about what is available to them in South Carolina, that is a state that introduced sports betting legislation, and we were told by our sources that if Georgia goes, South Carolina will go. Well, Georgia didn't go, and so South Carolina didn't really go anywhere at all this year. To the point you made about fantasy sports, Matt, to just put a bow on everything we've discussed on this podcast, Prize Picks, Underdog, all of those of the ilk in which you are picking overs and unders on players. Again, Adam Silver, if you think you're going to ban all of those bet types, you're reaching into the fantasy sports industry as well. You're not just talking about the legal sports betting industry, because for some of these apps, that's all of what it's built on, is being able to offer these bet types on certain players.
Yeah, it was, and I did the same thing you said too. I told him, I go, hey man, I don't blame you. I mean, if I lived here and that was all I could do, I probably would do it too. I mean, it's I don't blame them, but it's just more of our thing of yes, they are getting a lot of market share, and they're getting a lot of business. They're getting a lot of people because they would bet sports legally, but it's not offered to them, so they have to go alternative routes. And so that's kind of just keeps driving home to us why legalizing this is still just the better deal. They're not going through bookies. They're not going through these other routes. They would just go through the legal channels that were there. Again, guys, all the stuff we talk about, you can find over on LegalSportsReport.com. If you want to follow Adam on the Twitter machine, Adam Candee, 2 E's, no wife, hate yourself. You can follow me at Matt Brown, M2. For Adam, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.